Welcome to CAF Warbird Tube. Glad to have you with us. And we're going to talk about a very unique airplane, the P-61 Northrop's Black Widow. And joining us, Russ Strine. Russ from the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum. Glad to have you on the show tonight.
Thank you, Steve.
Well, we're going to talk more about the airplane, the recovery, the museum, all sorts of good things. But tell us a little bit about your background in aviation.
Well, when I was a small child, my dad bought an airworthy Corsair surplus, and weekends from about the time I was 8 years old, we would work on the airplane on weekends, and so I just grew up around airplanes. I went to Embry-Riddle, got my aviation degrees, and got all my ratings, and when I got out of Embry-Riddle, I came back to Pennsylvania and had the opportunity to buy an FBO, which I did. And so I've been in aviation all my life, and it's been a rewarding experience. I got to work with my dad, who was a mechanic and an IA, and quite a guy. I got to work with him for 46 years. So here we are doing what we love.
Very good. We're going to talk about that and a few other things as we roll on tonight. But we'd like to welcome the entire audience here. If you're a first-timer, welcome to CAF Warbird Tube. And if you're a returning fan, glad to have you back with us tonight. And remember, if you enjoy what you see, don't forget to spread the word on your favorite social media platforms. We do appreciate that. Now, the Warbird Tube is made possible by the Commemorative Air Force. If you'd like to find out more about the CAF, our events, our aircraft, and where those aircraft are on tour this fall, you can just go to our website, commemorativeairforce.org. Now, as you're watching tonight, I'm almost betting that people will have questions, and Russ and I will try our best to answer any questions that you may have. Just type those in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them either during the presentation if we can, or before we sign off. We have some time left for that. So, talking about the P-61, the Black Widow, and Russ, give us a little background on the airplane itself in World War II and into Korea.
The P-61 was developed, and kind of this is our connection to it, by General Spaatz, who is from the Reading area. And he witnessed the blitzkriegs in London, and he wrote up a set of specs and presented it to the War Department, and they decided to go with it. And the P-61 is the result of his efforts. They built about 750 airplanes total before the war ended, the majority of which were Bs. They built 450 B model airplanes. The others were As, and there was a handful of Cs at the very end of the war, which never saw combat.
It's quite a unique airplane in itself, and really the very first airplane that was a platform for radar as well.
That's true, and it was used in Europe initially, P-61As, and there you see a picture of an A, and then, but most extensively it was used in the Pacific.
Right. And out of the 700 plus that were produced, there are only four that still exist in the world today.
Correct.
And
four airplanes. Yeah,
we've got one at the Air and Space Museum in
that's a C model.
Washington. Yeah,
that was in Project Thunderstorm after the war.
And what was Project Thunderstorm?
They actually flew. I believe there was a dozen P-61s in a squadron based at Wilmington Air Base in Ohio, near Dayton, and they flew into thunderstorms to do research. So they were the initial thunderstorm project.
Wow. Okay. The initial hurricane hunters, only on a much smaller scale. Wow. Okay. So that one's at the Udvar Hazy Center, and
That's
then
correct.
we've got one at Dayton at the Museum of the Air Force.
It is also a C.
Yeah. And then one in China, which is an unusual place to find one, I would think. Is there a connection there with China?
We believe that I want to say it's the 426th Night Fighter Squadron operated in CBI, and when they left the theater, I believe that they left a couple airplanes for the Chinese.
Okay.
And this is one of those airplanes. And it is also, it is the only other B that exists. It's a late model B. And of course, our airplane is an early B.
Yes. Before we get into your airplane itself, one of our viewers already has a question, and that is, how does the P-61 compare to the A-26? They were both, twin engine aircraft that had similar roles, but can you compare the two?
Well, the A-26 did not have radar, to my knowledge.
Right.
The P-61 did. Now, the A-20 Havoc was sort of the first airplane that we had that radar was installed in, and the P-61 then was the follow-on to that.
Okay. Very good. Well, this particular airplane that we're going to talk about, it was recovered from overseas a number of years ago. But before we do that, we're going to give you a little historical piece of film that Leah Block found, and also a little walk around of the airplane as it currently sits. So let's take a look at that video.
This is the P-61, called the Black Widow. She's well named because she packs 4 caliber 50 machine guns and 4 20mm cannon. An obituary notice goes with each bite. Those twin engines will carry her fast enough to catch up with almost anything in the sky. And she's maneuverable, as a fighter should be. Very easy to handle. She stalls, takes off, and lands at low speeds. Getting checked out on her is a pleasure. The Black Widow flies the skies in 3 sleek models. First, the YP-61, the earliest model of this ebony killer. Then the P-61A, the first model to go into combat service. And finally, the P-61B, the newest combat version. Let's watch this pilot learning his stuff on a P-61A. Now let's go upstairs and watch another P-61 go through its paces. A YP in this case. The ship takes off at about 105 miles an hour, indicated without flaps. She'll fly herself off the ground. But now let's see how the P-61 takes off with flaps. Using quarter flaps provides another normal takeoff. Notice that the nose need be raised very little. But if you ever have to take off from a bombed field in a hurry, use 2/3 flaps. Keep nose wheel on ground until you have flying speed, then pull her loose. Climb a few feet and level off to gain speed. The P-61 will take off in a short space if you handle her correctly. Here's another way to clear an obstacle at the end of the runway. Flaps down 2/3 again. But this time, stay on the ground as long as possible, gaining all the speed you can. Then pull up steeply and keep climbing until the obstacle is cleared. 140 miles per hour gives you the best rate of climb, but 160 is generally recommended for normal operation. The higher speed keeps the engine running cooler. The Widow is very easy to get along with. She won't give you any trouble on turns. Climbs like a monkey. Dives well. Here she is doing a chandelle. A stall at about 95 miles per hour with flaps up and power off. The response and effectiveness of elevator and rudders is completely normal. Elevator forces are exceptionally light for a ship of its size due to the spring-loaded tabs. When airspeed drops below 175, lower gear and check it. approach at not less than 110 miles an hour. Touchdown at about 90 miles an hour. Tail down. After you complete the landing run and come to a stop, be sure the cowl flaps are open and raise the wing flaps. Well, that ends your first lesson in learning how to fly the Black Widow. You have a long way yet to go, but it's usually a case of love at first flight. She's that kind of an airplane. The Black Widow is designed to kill. The fury of her guns and the flaming wrecks of her victims are lighting up dark skies over enemy strongholds. To you who will fly her at night in hard-hitting air battles, we say good luck and good hunting.
So we're looking at the airplane as it's kind of sitting today in the hangar.
Yeah, this is right after we painted it. The paint job came out really, really well.
Yeah.
And boy, what a difference. I mean, people are just ecstatic when they see it. That's its original serial number, of course, 4239445. The red and white stripe on the tail is a marking for the 550th Night Fighter Squadron. And the N number, we were able to get 550 November Fox, so representing the 550th Night Fighter Squadron, of course.
Okay. What about the green nacelle and prop tip there?
So each P-61 squadron had a colored marking. The 550th was that signal green. Some were red, some were yellow, some were white. Ours just happened to be the green, and I think it really sets it off myself.
It certainly does. Well, we're seeing it, what it looks like today, and this is what it looked like a number of years ago when you went to recover the wreck. Tell us about how you figured out where it was and what you had to go through to kind of bring it back home.
Well, my father was a co-pilot on a B-25 that we have here, and he was at an air show in Cleveland, Ohio, and after the air show, the flight crews were sitting around, I think, having a beer and telling tall tales about, well, I know where this airplane is, and I know where that airplane is. And one of the guys said, well, I know where they were topping each other with these tales of where these airplanes were. And this guy tells my dad he knows where there's a P-61. So after he told the story, and he didn't disclose where it was, my dad said, would you give me that information? This, I hope, doesn't offend anybody. This was a crew member on the CAF B-29 by the name of Al Hoxie. And Al said, I've offered this information to the CAF once, and the general staff rejected it. He said, so I want to offer it to them one more time since we're all CAF members, and just in good faith. And he said, if they reject it this time, then I'll send you the information. Well, in 2 weeks, we received a letter in the mail telling us where the airplane was, and we knew nothing more about it than that. And my dad, so we had an FBO, and I used to get my coffee and go to the hangar and walk around in the morning. And my dad approached me and he said, he said, I know where there's a P-61. What do you say we go get it? And I said, sure, why not? Just that nonchalant. Can you believe that? You know, those are innocent days for you. And so my dad took the lead, and he contacted the Indonesian embassy, air attaché in Washington, D.C., and the story goes from there. So how the museum got started is that we'd had 2 meetings with the Indonesians. We did not know anything whatsoever about their culture. They subsequently, we realized, move things very, very, very slowly. And they talk about the green light. You have to wait for the green light. And so after we had 2 meetings, I said, what do you say we print some letterhead and some business cards and write them a letter on museum letterhead? So we came up with the name Mid-Atlantic Air Museum, basically because that's where we're located. And we wrote the letter, and gee, doors started to open, and it then went from there. Still took years and years, but that's how the museum got started. Once doors started to open, I called my attorney and I said, you better incorporate a nonprofit air museum real quick for us, and which he did. And anyway, it still took us 3 years to get permission to go look at the airplane.
And then once you could look at the airplane, what was your initial reaction?
So my dad and a sponsor and an engineer from Piper Aircraft, who was a member of the museum, went to Sentani, Indonesia, with permission from the Indonesians, and got help to climb the mountain. They got guides, local Dani tribesmen who led them up the mountain. They knew where the airplane was, and they got their first look at it, which would have been Thanksgiving weekend of 1984, and determined that it still had air in the tires, which appeared brand new, had hydraulic tank full of hydraulic fluid, engine oil in the engines, and just amazing. The airplane had grown over with on the skin, had grown over with moss and vines, and moss, as you know, is a top feeding plant, and so that helped keep the moisture off the airplane. The other thing that helped is right under the fuselage where it crash landed was about 3 huge rocks in a big rock outcrop, and that kept it out of the mud and saved it, even though the belly was smashed. If you look at the picture we're looking at there right now, of course, the helicopter has started to lift the fuselage, and it's tilted over a little bit there. But behind the fuselage, you can see a long tree trunk. Those are ironwood trees that the airplane took down in the crash. One of those trees severed the left wing in half, just outboard of the nacelles, and damaged the leading edges. I think it took down 6 trees total. Those trees, they're called ironwood trees for a reason. The wood is so dense that in 40 years it had not rotted, and it would dull a chainsaw blade in just a matter of minutes. It was so dense.
What was the circumstances of the crash itself?
So this 550th Ninth Fighter Squadron left Fresno, California, where they trained, in August of '44. They get to Hollandia, New Guinea, in December, just before Christmas of 1944. They had no quarters. They were living in their tents. They had no airplanes, and they had not flown an airplane since they left training in August. So the pilot of this P-61, his name was Logan Southfield. He was 27 years old. He was actually older than the squadron CEO. And so the CEO looked to Redfield, or looked to the pilot for, guidance and help. And so they're in a bar, and they ask, when I say a bar, like an O Club on the base. The base, Hollandia base, was about 10,000 troops strong at the height of its career there. Anyway, they were asking around, how do we get an airplane? And they said, well, you get on a transport and you fly to the island of Biak, where there's a base, and you walk in there like you own the place. This is true story, by the way. You walk in there like you own the place, and you ask for some airplanes. So, and if they have any, force yourself on them and take them. So that's exactly what happened. They flew up to Biak. Tyler, the squadron commander, got a P-70 Havoc night fighter, and Southfield got this P-61, and they flew him back to Hollandia. And so after it was inducted into the squadron officially, and the operations officer blessed it, Southfield got to take it out for a proficiency flight. Well, I guess the night before the flight, they're back in the officers club, and a P-51 pilot supposedly bet Southfield that the P-61 could not outclimb Mount Cyclops, which is a 7,000-foot mountain about 3 miles from the airfield. So I guess Southfield took on the bet, and somehow he got 2 passengers. There's a dispute on who these 2 passengers were. One says that it was a Sergeant Ruth LeVay, WAC, and the other was a Lieutenant Floyd LeVay, who was a transport pilot. So they got in the gunner's compartment where there's no seat belt, and Southfield and his radar operator, Benny Goldstein, take off on this proficiency flight, and the plan is they're going to buzz Cyclops and try to zoom up over it. So they go out over Lake Centani, and they dive in. They fly over the airfield. They start up the mountain. They get about halfway up 7,000-foot Cyclops and run out of airspeed and peel off. They go back, they go out, they climb over Lake Santani again for some more altitude. They dive in even faster, more airspeed. They get a little higher up Cyclops, but they run out airspeed again, and so they have to peel off. Well, this went on for 45 minutes, and you can imagine, here's these 2 passengers. It had to be a wild ride there with no seat belt, no seat, no nothing. So the third time, by this time, Southfield has half the base or more attention. They're all out watching these antics go on. We've talked to people who said, yeah, I was there. I was in the hospital. We were all hanging out the windows of the hospital watching. So he comes in the third time, and there's kunai grass on the airfield that's about 6 foot tall. They say that the kunai grass wavered and the airplane whistled as it went by. This third time, he got farther up Cyclops and ran out airspeed again, and he went to peel off, and he found his ailerons and his controls were locked, and he couldn't. He went to war emergency power, but by this time the tails are beginning to drag in the trees, and it ultimately brought the airplane down. Why were his controls locked? Well, the cockpit's a pretty tight cockpit, and the gunner's cockpit is about, I don't know, 8 inches higher than the cockpit floor is. And behind the pilot seat is, on the right side of the airplane, is a control lock. And it appears that that control lock was spring-loaded to on. Kind of stupid to me as a pilot. I think it should be spring-loaded to off, you know.
Yeah.
And so we think that the shushling around, if you will, of the two passengers in the gunner's compartment, somebody with their foot hit the control lock. It's got a very small locking detent, if you will, to keep it in position. We think that in the third climb up the mountain, somebody's foot hit that and it sprung to the locked position, and Southfield couldn't turn away. So in he went. Fortunately, nobody was seriously injured. Benny Goldstein, back in the radio operator's compartment, got a gash on his forehead. The Southfield jumped out of the airplane through the top hatch, obviously in shock, saw the blood from his buddy's forehead, and took off down the mountain. Well, right behind the airplane was a 100-foot cliff. He fell down the cliff, broke his back, broke the heels on his feet, both feet, and he continued down the mountain. It took him 6 hours to get to the base. Well, everybody saw this happen, so the squadron operations officer jumped in commandeered a Sikorsky R4 hoverfly and attempted to fly up past the crash site to see if anybody was still alive. The R4 hoverfly could not get that high up the mountain because of the density altitude. It was at somewhere around 6,000 feet. And of course, the mountain, as I said previously, was about 7,000 feet to the top. From the crash site, you could actually see over the top of the mountain. You could see light over through the trees over the top of the mountain. So he almost made it. Anyway, the hoverfly won't go that high because of density altitude. So it comes back. They jump in a Stinson L5. They go up. They fly by the crash site. They find the survivors waving at them. So they set out with a search party. It took them 2 days to get up there. They trained a searchlight on the crash site at night because there was still Japanese soldiers who hadn't got the word that they were leaving. They were still out there in the woods. These guys would come in and raid the garbage dump at night for food. So they knew they were still out there, so they trained the light on the crash site. Southfield got put into a body cast and, as they say, got the next flight out. The squadron commander and the operations officer were pretty shrewd. They sent him back to the States. Of course, he had serious injuries, but they sent him out, and he avoided court-martial by getting on the next flight out, kind of thing. And so that's the story of the crash.
My goodness. And
quite interesting, quite colorful.
Yeah, yes, we could spend the entire hour just talking about that, but the recovery itself is amazing as well. And you said you made even your father made quite a few trips out to the crash site to recover all of the aircraft over a number of years.
So an individual from Sacramento, California, by the name of Jim Ricketts, had previous to our undertaking had undertaken to try and recover the airplane, and the leader of the crew that was on the mountain to in effect start to disassemble the airplane to get it out of there had a heart attack while he was up on the mountain, and so they abandoned their attempt to do so. So then along comes us. The Indonesians did not they were very dubious. They didn't know if they should talk to us or not. So what we did is we found out that a treaty that ended World War II said that all of the war trash that was left, the jeeps, the airplanes, the whatever that was left, became the property of the country where it was left. So we went to the Air Force at the Pentagon, and they were able to issue a letter stating that, and stating that they had no interest. The U.S. Air Force didn't have any interest in recovering or owning the airplane. That gave us the green light. I actually was able to use that letter to get Oklahoma City and the FAA to issue a registration number and register the airplane in our name, and that gave the Indonesians the confidence that they needed to say, okay, we could have the airplane. That probably was the easy part of it. The tribe, the Dani tribe, who are former cannibalists, that the missionaries are over there teaching the Bible in English, claimed the land, and as a result claimed the airplane. The chief had the radio operator's seat in his hut, and we had to buy that from him. The result was that the chief said, that's my airplane. And he tried to bargain with us to pay him money. The Indonesian military put him in his place, and that ended that little saga. But it's just a number of things like that went on and on. We were there, I think, 5 times. The climate is so harsh. We used like a Luan mahogany plywood to build the crates, and they would rot in 6 months. So we had to go back and rebuild the crates a second time in order to get it on a ship and bring it home. Another colorful story is we rented the largest truck on the island. The fuselage crate was 28 foot long. The truck was about 14 foot long. So half of this crate stuck out the back of the truck. We followed it in our little taxi that we had, and it had to go 32 kilometers to the town of Jayapura, which was back in the day called Hollandia. And we had to pass through a couple other little towns. So natives rode on top of the fuselage crate to balance it. And then when they came to a power line, these natives would lift the power line with their bare hands so that the crate could pass underneath it. And they'd pass the power line from one guy to the other back through the crate. Just another little colorful story of what went on to get this airplane out of there.
My goodness. You're going to have to write a book about this when it's all done.
So my dad always wanted to, speaking of books, my dad always said to me, I want to write a book about this. So I let him take the lead on that. And I had enough to do, let alone write a book. So he got a ghostwriter to write a book called Forgotten Widow. We sell that here at the museum. Okay. And it tells the entire story of the Strines and the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum and the recovery of the P-61.
Wow.
So you can buy that for $40, or you can become a $100 sponsor, get the book with a piece of original skin from the airplane.
Nice. Well, speaking of original, this is what the cockpit kind of looked like when you got it back. A little work has been done to it.
Yeah, it has. Today, the instrument panel is complete. There you can see, so I missed a part of the story, and I'll take a moment to tell that. So when we finally got the Indonesian government to supply a helicopter, it flew 3,200 miles to come out there and do the lift off of the mountain. We had to, of course, disassemble the airplane into big pieces, i.e. left engine, left nacelle, right nacelle, fuselage, tail, left wing, right wing, etc. It took a week for the Puma 330 to lift each piece off the mountain to get it all off. It was the operation of the century there in Hollandia, or Sentani, the little village of Sentani. And so they had to build a heliport, not to put the weight of the Puma on, but to offload the loadmaster and the various slings and nets that they used to haul the pieces. So we're traveling from the States over there, and while we're en route, one of the natives decided that they needed to cut one more tree down to have enough clearance for the helicopter rotor blades. And so he got his windage wrong, and the tree fell over the airplane. It fell over the left nacelle and smashed where the tail booms attach. Smashed that shut like a bug, and it smashed the radio operator's compartment off of the airplane, literally. The airplane was totally intact as far as all that goes, but when my dad got up there, he radioed back down to me, and he said, I was like the business manager. I would go buy them their hacksaw blades and their rice and their beans and their peaches and things like that. And the natives would carry it up, and then they'd carry cowlings or whatever parts we took off the airplane. They would carry them back down. So my dad gets up there and he sees this damage to the airplane, and he calls me on the radio and he said, I want to abandon the project. And he was very upset, very disgusted. And I said, how bad is it? And he described it. And I said, we cannot abandon this. We have members who have given us $100 to pull this off. And for me to sleep at night, I'd have to give back all those hundreds of dollars to each of those members for me to be happy and for us to move on and not do this project. Well, he said, okay, if that's what you want. So he continued to do the recovery.
That's crazy.
Quite a time in our lives.
I'm sure.
It was probably my dad's greatest time as an adult. He was 55 years old when he climbed. Took 6 hours to climb that mountain.
Wow.
He ruined 2 knees doing it, but he was determined to make this happen.
And we're looking at the outside of the cockpit right now.
So there's the gunner's compartment.
Oh, the gunner's compartment. Okay.
You can see about square in the middle of the picture, that's a heater inside there, back in the corner. Oh. And the yellow chromate-looking box you see on the back wall, that's where the voltage regulators exist. You can see one voltage regulator is installed there. Up in the left center is the bulletproof glass for the gunner. And but again, that did not have a seat in it. Interesting note to talk about there. The airplane did not have a turret in it when it was built. It was an early B. The turrets were the same style turret General Electric was building for the B-29, and it had a higher project priority than P-61s did. So, but the airplane had all the inverters, all the electrical harnesses, all of the cannon plugs, and so the deal was they were going to, once the B-29 turret production caught up, then they would ship turrets to the field to install in the P-61s, and it was a plug-and-play deal. Basically, you sit the turret in there and bolt it down, and you install the seat here in the gunner's compartment and plug the cannon plugs into it. As the seat rotates left and right, the turret also rotates left and right. It's kind of like a balance bridge thermostat, if you know what I mean in that regard. And so we have elected to put a turret in the airplane just because I think it looks naked without the turret, and I also wanted that third crew seat in there. So we've made some concessions, a few concessions, and the turret is now installed in the airplane, and we've yet to install the seat because we have a little more work to do in there. Actually, you can't get the ammo cans attached to the turret unless the seat's out of the airplane. Kind of interesting fact, but stupid, but that's how it is. So we have made a lot of progress. I will admit we have a long way to go. We've got 2 wings to build yet. There you can see the cockpit, and I want to describe a couple things here. Front center on the windshield, you can see the gun sight. It's a very simple gun sight. I've not put the control wheel in there because I'm afraid somebody will walk off with it. But you can see on the right side of the cockpit up there by the first side window, you can see the ADF. There's the control wheel. You can see the ADF control upper left of the picture there. You can see the ultra rare night binoculars. So those night binoculars are on a track on the left side of the airplane. And so they swing forward to the windshield and then swing 90 degrees to, and you see at the very top there of the windshield, you see like a triangular piece of metal with a socket in it. Well, the handle that you see down here on the left is what locks the night binocular up there, and all the pilot has to do is lean forward and look in it, and so he's seeing crosshairs when he looks through the night binocular. Also want to say, while we're talking about night binoculars, the procedure for shooting the enemy down was this. GCA on the ground had a range of about 15 miles. So you got your P-61, he's up at 15,000 feet, and he's got the power pulled back, and he's loitering, hoping the enemy will cruise by. Ground control sees the bogey coming in. He alerts the P-61, and he gives direction, azimuth and bearing. Here's where the bogey is, and he's at 10,000 feet. So the P-61 dives to 10,000 feet, and when he gets within about 5 miles of the bogey, then the P-61's radar scope, which is a little thing on the pilot's instrument panel, and the radio operator in the back also has one. It's about 3/4 of an inch wide and about 2 inches tall, and it's orange. And they can see the little dot in there of the bogey. And so the radio operator then takes over and directs his pilot. Remember that these guys ate together, slept together, drank together, and they sat all day with a pair of red goggles on to train their eyes to the night. So he knows if he tells his pilot turn right 2 degrees, he knows that his pilot knows what 2 degrees is. So they're directed, the radio operator directs his pilot. they come up under the enemy and come right up under it, close enough that they can look out the canopy and see the red meatball or the Germans' Iron Cross, whatever, wherever the airplane is. That's how they did it. Then, identified as an enemy airplane, they back off about 100 yards. And I'm talking about an airplane now that didn't have a turret. The turret was basically used as a defensive measure, not to take out the enemy. So they back off about 100 yards, and the pilot pushes the button for the 20 millimeter cannons, and they fire where a machine gun 50 caliber fires very fast. The 20 millimeter fires, very slowly, and so ba-boom, ba-boom, and the enemy is toast. And pieces of the airplane are flying past the P-61 as it comes apart. So that's how they did it, and that's how they had to identify the enemy.
Wow.
Quite interesting. We were involved with the World War II Night Fighters Association, who helped us quite a bit in funding over the years. And they held two of their conventions here. We got to interview a lot of and tape a lot of the various night fighters and aces, and the way we got the original story of the crash is from the 550th Squadron Night Fighter Squadron's operations officer. His name was Vic Medina, and there was this cover-up because there were these two unauthorized people in there. And so finally, after the last, the Night Fighter Association is going to disband, and Vic Medina came into my dad's office and closed the door and said, "I want to tell you the real story." And so that was quite a blessing for that to happen, because these men were going to take it to their grave.
That's crazy.
There you can see the 20 millimeter cannons.
Yeah.
Those are the original cannons that were on board the airplane. The previous recovery attempt had removed them and had dropped them about halfway down the mountain. And we came upon them, as luck would have it. This airplane hit so hard right in that area there that this cannon that you see here on the right, which is the front one, it bent the barrel 45 degrees down. That's how hard the thing slammed into the rocks. So we've repaired that. Again, they're the original cannons. They, of course, don't fire. They're made by International Harvester, believe it or not, under subcontract. So there's a piece of stainless steel where you see the yellow structure. There's a piece of stainless steel cowling goes on there, and it was stainless steel because of the gun blast.
Sure.
We have new tires on it, new brakes. Carl Scholl built us a set of brakes. Same components as a B-25. The landing gear is actually Bendix B-25 turned around backwards. The nose gear is different, but the main gear is B-25. And all of the hydraulic components on the airplane are B-25. So I have about, I've been flying a B-25 since 1978. And have about 650 hours and several hundred air shows in the B-25 that we have here. And so I will be qualified enough to be able to be able to fly the airplane. Just as the news came out that we were recovering the P-61, the FAA was overhauling its type rating listing, and they added the P-61. So technically it requires a type rating, but it'll be in limited category. It qualifies for that. Sure. And so who's alive today that has flown one and could check me out in it? Nobody, I don't think. Yeah. So that's my hope. I hope I live long enough. Speaking of living long enough, people are constantly asking, when will the airplane be done? When will it be done? Nobody wants it done more than we do. Yeah. I've ordered 2 engines for it. We're that close. From Anderson Aeromotive, they will take north of a year to get finished and be delivered to us. We are building all of the parts for the wings. The right wing was intact. The left wing was severed in 2. We are building all of the parts, new spars. The entire airplane has had new spars put in it, so it'll last another 100 years. The wings, we're machining all of the parts, the spars, the spar caps. We were able to do that. We have a big machine shop here, and we're fortunate enough to have the volunteers that can do that type of machining. So we will put the right wing together. We've got the skins all drilled and ready to go back on. All the ribs are completed. Everything's ready to go. So the right wing will go fast. The left wing, even though we have all the parts made for it, will take a little bit longer. We've built a rotisserie to be able to work on both sides of the wing and to turn it and flip it. So that's where we're at. And I'd just like to remind people that, again, nobody wants it finished more than we do. We're not a commercial shop. We have 131 airplanes as of yesterday. We maintain about 28 or so airplanes in an airworthy condition. And so we hold our feet to the fire. We're all volunteers, volunteer machinists, volunteer electricians. Fortunately, the airplane's all wired, ready to go. So the wings are the big thing. We get about 30,000 visitors come through the museum, and I'm honored to say that we have had people from all over the world come to see this airplane. And it's a Herculean task for us. Yeah. It really is. It will certainly be an award winner. It is pristine. We are doing a very professional restoration, as we're known for doing in large airplanes. We've won many awards for our work. And again, I'm proud to say it's all volunteers. I wish we had the money that we could hire a couple of professional restoration specialists to be able to get on this thing for us, but we're doing the best we can. And when our visitors come through and they ask us when the airplane is going to be done, we tell them Tuesday. We just don't tell them which Tuesday.
That's the best answer you can have.
Just a little bit of cuteness there, you know.
That's right. A couple of our viewers have some questions. John Elliott, what percentage of the plane is going to be original versus having to be remanufactured?
Somewhere 77, 78% is going to be original.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let's see here. Miles is wondering if you could just kind of briefly talk about the differences between the A, B, and C models.
Okay. This is a great picture we have right here. If you look at the front end of the nose gear door and the edge of the fiberglass nose, there's an 8-inch extension in the fuselage. That's indicative of a B. The A, the nose fit right back up against the nose gear door. Okay. So the B is 8 inches longer than the A. This airplane is very much a hybrid. This particular serial number here that we have, number 964, is very much a hybrid. So they're building A's at the factory, right? All of a sudden, the government lets a contract for the improved B. Well, the factory, and it's a wartime, right? The factory has a lot of A parts left. So they used A parts in this airplane. This is a P-61 B-1 NO for Northrop. So this airplane, it's taken literally 3 different parts and service manuals to put this airplane together because it's a hybrid of A parts, B parts. And so that's the difference in the A and the B. The C model, same airframe, but it has turbocharged engines. One of the drawbacks, one of the complaints of the A and the B was that the airplane could not go higher than about 20,000 feet without running out of steam, running out of manifold pressure in the engines. So the C model is turbo supercharged and could go to 30,000 feet, they say. That's the main difference. Also, when they put when they built the C, they put dive brakes or speed brakes on it that come up out of the wing. One comes out of the bottom, one comes out of the top. When Max Stanley, who was a test pilot, took the first C up to test it, and how you open those is you tap the toe brakes on the rudder pedals. Okay. And when the speed brakes opened up, it shed its wings and made a hole in the ground. Max got out safely. So they wired them all. They built them all with those speed brakes on them, but they wired them shut. And if you visit the one at the Smithsonian or the Air Force Museum, you can see them there in the wings.
Wow. What was the
other interesting thing about this airplane is we have 3-foot-long ailerons. And initially, when they built the YPs, which they only built 13 of them, by the way, when they built the YPs as a test airplane, it had full-span flaps and spoilers for roll control. So the spoilers didn't spoil the lift. They just came up out of the wing. Let's say that you want to make a right turn. Well, the right one came up, and the airplane went into a right turn, and vice versa for left. They didn't both come up at the same time. And so they operated, in effect, just like an aileron would operate, one up and one down kind of thing. Anyway, the complaint of the test pilots was that it did not have any feel in the control yoke. So they put 3-foot ailerons on it, and that gave it the control feel that it needed. That's the basic differences in the airplanes.
Yeah. Okay. What's been the hardest part of the restoration so far, aside from getting the airplane physically off the mountain? Once you got it back, has there been something that's really been difficult?
The spars.
The spars? Okay. So
the very first thing that we did is we built a cradle to hold the fuselage and to hold the 2 center fuselage wing spars, which are big pieces of steel pipe with fittings on them. Getting that square and getting the fuselage centered, we're talking about within millimeters here. Mm-hmm. That was initially the hardest part. My dad was an old school mechanic, and he'd lay awake at night. He'd figure this stuff out, and he'd come up with a way to do it. That was kind of his claim to fame. The second biggest thing was finding in our area a machine shop with tables on their milling machines large enough to handle the wing spars. They're long, and they're actually in 3 different sections, but they're still long. And I think the biggest challenge was the spars in the center section, and most expensive also. I can tell you that we've got a lot of money in wing spars and a lot of time. Fortunately, we have all of the drawings for the airplane, or it's a bittersweet thing. The drawings are on 17 rolls of microfilm, and it is very, very poor microfilm. Many drawings. You say, okay, well, we'll look up that drawing on the microfilm, and you get to it, and you can't read the damn thing. We've run into that time and time again. One of our volunteers specializes in finding the correct drawing for us and producing it. We have a printer for the microfilm, and that's probably the most frustrating. You might be able to read one part of it, but not the rest. The other thing that they did is that in case we lost the war and the enemy fell and the microfilm fell in the drawings fell into the hands of the enemy, they changed numbers. They might put a number in backwards. You just had to get a grip on it and kind of figure that out, of what was wrong with the drawing. There would just be one number that just didn't make any sense. And so there was a learning curve there. But, it's been my life, my dad's life. He left us in 2018. This museum I've dedicated over 45 years to it, and I couldn't imagine doing anything else.
Yeah. Well, and we're going to give a shout out to your Warbird Weekend. Of course, that has become a huge, a huge part of people who are World War II enthusiasts of their calendar to make sure that they make it out to Reading for that. You had a successful year again this year.
We did.
Yeah.
Despite rainy forecasts, I think this was taken on a Sunday morning right after the gates opened. But 40 acres this year, 1,600 reenactors. I think 83 airplanes. Big air show, 40s dance. By the way, we're having a 40s dance on September 6th. If you're in the area, come join us. It was our 34th World War II weekend, and we're looking forward to doing it again. People come from all over the world to see it. Right. We have, I think this year we had 9 airplanes doing airplane rides, including Doc, the B-29, which made its second appearance here. Normally Fifi is here, when we love Fifi. Anyway, it's something you ought to see. You really should.
It is. It's on my bucket list. And Russ, thank you for sharing the story of the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum's Black Widow, the P-61. We certainly appreciate it. It is an interesting airplane, one that kind of changed the course of night combat, and we look forward to catching up with you as the restoration continues. And one of these days, it's going to be in the sky.
Steve, I could go on, and I appreciate you having me, and I look forward to it in the future.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you.
And we appreciate all of you sticking with us tonight and learning more about this remarkable aircraft. We enjoyed sharing it with you, and we appreciate you being here again. If you could share this, if you liked it, share it across your social media platforms. We do appreciate it. And if you have any thoughts on tonight's episode or something you'd like us to cover in the future, send us an email, media@cafhq.org. Again, make sure you click that bell icon on YouTube, and you'll get notifications when our new episodes are posted. So until next time, go ahead, Russ.
And you could contact the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum at maam@maam.org.
Excellent. All right. So if there was a question that you had tonight that we didn't answer, go ahead and send that to Russ, and he'll answer it for you. All right. And with that, we will close tonight's broadcast. Wishing you blue skies and tailwinds. I'm Steve Buss for the CAF. Have a great night.
Thanks again, guys.